Every April 22nd, something shifts. For one day, sustainability feels like the agenda and not just a line item on it. And then April 23rd arrives. On It Shouldn't Be This Hard, we talk to business leaders, sustainability professionals, and social impact entrepreneurs working at the intersection of purpose and performance, hosting lively, playful, and often provocative discussions around why sometimes it's so hard to do the right thing and do the right things. In this episode, we reflect on our episode with Kathleen Rogers, president of EarthDay.org, one of the most recognized environmental platforms on the planet, to ask the question she asks herself every single year. What do we do the day after Earth Day? And how do we build a movement big enough and practical enough to keep going?
Can you talk a little bit about how maybe the focus of Earth Day has changed from maybe where it was 5 or 10 years ago to where it's focused today?
Think of us as it's sort of a cross between a metaphor and a sort of a visual concept, as a giant balloon, right? And we're this little basket at the bottom of the hot air balloon. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And it's kind of a paradox, because at the same time, people's awareness of environmental issues grows and the population grows. So we have an endless supply, well, until population starts to shrink long after I'm gone, endless supply of newcomers, right? So you have this both increasing numbers of people who, thanks to Earth Day and everything else that everybody does to protect the planet, this show, I mean, everything that people do, all the sustainability people who work in companies, all the ESG people, all the CEOs, they all have a role in building the movement. But it's kind of a paradox that while people learn more and more about the environment and integrate some pieces of it into their own lives, the problems are getting bigger and bigger. And then the third part of the paradox, which is only supposed to have a couple parts, but skip that part, is that people feel less and less able to challenge the status quo. So our job is to constantly reinforce the concept that you can be an environmental citizen. I mean, it is, after all, the one thing in this divided, hopelessly sometimes divided world that we share, which is the planet. That's the one thing we have in common.
More awareness, more powerlessness at the same time. This paradox of awareness is not only a communications problem, but a strategic one, because it causes what we term the intention-action gap, the growing distance between what we want to do and what we actually do. So the question Kathleen keeps coming back to isn't how to make more people care. It's how to convert caring into action.
It was making me think of Earth Day as almost a hub for all of this activity, right? Because it invites creativity in a lot of ways. Like we joked about the songs, but everybody's coming up with their own unique ways, and some really catch fire and go, but it becomes a hub and an aggregator of all these different things you can do so that they can be repurposed or amplified or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we work with mayors, and we're really proud of them. Right, left, center. They're all doing something. You know, one thing I learned when I walked in the door at Earth Day, I started really thinking about what does the environment mean? So I looked it up in a dictionary. I actually just went and looked it up. And it said, this has probably been one of the big things in my life. It means what surrounds you, right? That's the definition of environment. What surrounds you?
Makes sense.
So
yeah.
That is what instructed me all through my tenure there, is if what surrounds you is beautiful, you naturally want to protect it. If what surrounds you is horrible and polluted, and I've been in so many heartbreaking neighborhoods where if the cities would just get it together and clean it up, the people would have much better lives. And that's been instructive for us, is really we've used that idea as a way to grow Earth Day, is to tell people that when you protect what surrounds you, it will allow you to not only be proud of what you've done, protective of what you've done, but you'll eventually, like a little pebble in a pond, you'll see the ripple effect.
That's a powerful reframe for business too, because sustainability can feel abstract, global, systemic, and overwhelming. But what surrounds you is immediate. It's the neighborhood your employees live in, the watershed your facility draws from, the community where your customers actually live. In other words, it's your environment, and the choices we make are heavily influenced by the environment which we live in. And Kathleen reminds us that this isn't a metaphor, it's an equity argument.
Because the impacts of climate are not just about losing oceanfront homes. It's about drought. It's about food production. Everybody has a right to a decent environment, to a healthy environment. You're not born into one where you're automatically destined for lung cancer or skin cancer or whatever it is because you don't have trees in your neighborhood or you have a power plant in your backyard.
We've heard this across almost every conversation we had this season. The fear of getting it wrong keeps companies from saying anything at all. And what Kathleen keeps coming back to is that the antidote isn't a better communication strategy, it's a bigger tent.
It's not absolutes. We all know that things have to move incrementally or there'll be a giant pushback like there is right now, where companies are often afraid to talk about climate change. I mean, everyone's afraid to talk to about climate change because they're worried that there'll be some kind of retribution or payback for doing that. There's so many do-gooders in the world. I think we all are in our hearts, and certainly when it comes to our immediate environment. I mean, and I think that's where you start, is in the hearts and souls of the people who say, I want my neighborhood to be better. I want it to be safe. I want it to be clean. I want trees. And so urban tree planting in low-income communities is the right thing to do. And so those are the kinds of things we look to do, is to look for the people in communities that want to do something, and we hand them the tools to do it. And that's why, and again, we go all the way up the ladder, all the way up the corporate ladder, all the way down into the poorest communities, because that's what Earth Day is all about. It's kind of, it's the every person movement. And I think that gives me the most joy, and the best stories, really, the best stories,
sure.
The ones I remember the most. We gin up 1 billion people, all of whom are out there learning about it or cleaning up or protesting or doing whatever. Companies are announcing their climate or other goals. It's a giant canopy, if you will, of issues, many, many leaves hanging from the trees, all of which have different meaning for different people. And yet, after Earth Day, it kind of falls back. And so one of our challenges, again, on using the paradox word, is how do we, as a movement, and everybody who does something for the environment, keep that momentum going? And so that, I think, is the biggest challenge that we face inside Earth Day, is what do we do the day after Earth Day? How do we keep them engaged? How do we turn them into environmental voters?
What's the one thing that you would leave people with? What's your words of wisdom to impart, in the hope that you can actually affect the change that you've been striving so hard to achieve through Earth Day for the past 30 years?
I guess that nature is extraordinary. That what we were given is a miracle, regardless of where you think it came from. It is powerful in a bad way with storms, and it's stunning in its majesty in the mountains. And each little bug and insect and you name it has a purpose and role on the planet, even if I hate mosquitoes. It's an extraordinary web of life, and we're, for all intents and purposes, the protectors of it. And I find great spirituality in nature. It gives back. Not enough people have access to it. Our urban kids don't have it. Nature calms us down. That's all you have to do, is go out in nature and your anxiety level will drop. And this is a very, very anxious world. And we have been given a gift that is provides for us, is emotionally rewarding and spiritually rewarding. And I wish everyone had the same opportunity that I do, and the people at Earth Day and you do have, in connecting with it, because it really gives me hope.
If you work in sustainability, in impact, in responsible business, some days the data is discouraging. The politics are exhausting. The pace of change feels impossibly slow against the scale of what's needed. And then you hear something like that. And you remember why you started, not for the KPIs nor reporting frameworks, but for the extraordinary web of life that provides for us, sustains us, calms us, and needs us to show up for it every day, not just one day. That's the why that makes this work worth doing, especially when it's hard. So go back to your supply chains, your partnerships, your teams, your stakeholders. Go back to the work and carry a little bit of this with you. Earth gives back, and so does the work of protecting it. Visit us at grounded.world because it shouldn't be this hard, and it doesn't have to be.